parts of the Middle East and the Mediterranean. And if you end up putting if you go and search for add species and put rock pigeon, it'll be a rare bird and it'll prompt you. So that's to try and distinguish between the feral pigeons that we have in North America and the true rock pigeons of the old world. All right, so then we have the option here of, is this a complete checklist? So a lot of times, some of my old records, they only have the most interesting species that I put, so you do have an effort associated with them, but they're not complete checklists. They don't have all the birds I included. So I click no. In this case, this is everything we saw. So we click yes, and we're good to go.
Okay, just before we finish here, imagine we had seen that ruddy duck, which we didn't see. So you notice here, it's not on the list, because it's a rare species, obviously. So the way to enter it is here, you click on this show rarities box here, and then this will bring up the full list of all birds reported to eBird in Nova Scotia.
Well, except for in Halifax County.
In Halifax County, right.
It has more than one record. There's a few.
That's right, because now it's by county.
Guys, if you had 99% of the birds you were sure about and one flew over that you weren't quite sure about, would you check no?
Yes, absolutely. Nobody is always going to be 100% sure on everything, and that's not the point, right?
Well, yeah, but you don't have to click no. I mean, you can enter it as like your closest guess. Like if you got it down to genus or to family. I mean, there's different options. There's duck spud, there's teal spud, there's passerine spud. There's all kinds of things. So you could put it there. You could put what you thought it was, and you could still click a complete checklist. It's still more valuable that way.
But it's that you were able to identify it. Like if you weren't able to identify it right, then it's still a yes.
It's
still yes. That's true. You're right.
It's essentially asking, is it a half a complete list? Like, is it only preferentially selecting the species that were new for your year list, or was this, a full checklist? Like, do you include the crows that you saw? Do you include the starlings? A lot of older checklists, they don't have crows, especially, and it's not that people weren't seeing crows; it's that they weren't checking off the crow that they heard in the distance 300 meters away. And we're actually showing some of the graphs that we show later might touch on the changing of behavior of reporting observations, and so keep that in mind, like things like crows and stuff. Sometimes the way people are birding has changed now with eBird. So hopefully you'll see some of those and with some graphs we have set up.
Right. So okay.
Is that all we wanted to say?
I think so, yes. I mean, if we'd seen the ruddy duck, it would be here. Then if you saw a species that is not on the checklist entirely, it's something incredibly rare, you can do this add species box here. And then we'll pull this up. You can enter anything. The search is pretty good, so it should pull it up right away. Or if you want to enter a subspecies that you don't see in there, or a spud that's not there either. Right. So you can put all those things in there.
eBird does have a lot of the spuds, so like, if it's not showing up here, chances are you can add it.
But their taxonomy is good. I mean, pretty much everything in the world's in there, so almost anything.
And they use Clemens checklist, and they have many language options, and they're adding more. So I know Hungarian is going to be added. A whole bunch of languages. But essentially, in North America, all the languages, French, English, Spanish, Dutch, Portuguese are all there. And that actually encourages, the more languages they add, the more it encourages people from other countries to use this.
For things like the Canada geese, we saw a lot of banded Canada geese this winter. Would putting that in the comment, like the actual band numbers, be helpful?
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
So we do have one.
So we're about to go into that. Even if that's okay, thanks for bringing it up, because we may have forgotten. But so once you've reported a species, you have all these other options. So there's this add details field, and for any rare species, it pretty much coerces you into putting something in there. And ideally for those birds, it should include some description of the bird and how you identified it, just so that when it comes up, like people, the reviewers will know how to gauge whether or not you know what you saw or not, or at least you didn't just like have a typo. If there's no details at all, you don't know. Maybe it's just a typo. I have no idea why that bird was put in there. But so you have all these details you can add here. You can write anything you want about the bird. And did you want to show how to upload a photo?
Is that 10 megs per image or for all of the images?
Max size, 10 megabytes per each image. Or for, I don't know. That's an excellent question.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
They recommend 3 to 4 images. Always pick your best ones. Don't dump every single picture you have of the bird on there. Pick your best one or two and put them on. And if you want, then you can like say a reviewer is asking you about this bird, you can email them all 25 or 30 or 100 pictures you
Right.
have, and that's fine, but yeah, for online. I won't show them now, but I'm going to show you how to upload a photo, because this is a kind of a new feature in eBird to embed it right into your checklist. And so I'll do it with an old checklist that I had, a photo that I never embedded. So, but I'll do another checklist that actually is relevant.
But we'll go through these other options here. So there's one where you can enter the age or sex of the bird you saw. So the lesser scaup was an adult male that we observed. And you can also put in breeding codes for breeding bird species. Like it's the same as the breeding bird atlas codes. So you have this whole list of different codes to choose from.
So yeah, those that did the breeding bird atlas will be familiar with these codes. But for others that are not, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. And it's definitely encouraged, especially in the summer, because birders tend to have preferentially bird areas or go after rare birds, okay? So an extralimital singing painted redstart in western, in western Texas, that's, outside of its range of the Chisos Mountains, birders tend to go and eBird that a lot, right? I know that painted redstart, and it was singing, but of course, that's not the core range, and it was perhaps only singing, whereas if you went to the Chisos Mountains in Big Bend National Park, then you could have seen a male and female pair, you could have maybe seen the female carrying food. So it certainly helps when evaluating the records to have a breeding code associated with it, and in particular for those extralimital records, right? Here in Nova Scotia would be a good example. Oh, this summer I was on Seal Island, and June 1st there was a singing male towhee, right? But 3 days later it was gone. So yes, I could put singing, but obviously if the other birds I have on there are, nests with young or, carrying food, it gives a better picture, and it helps to kind of elucidate what's actually happening.
And then there's a few other options. They introduced this one after the BP oil spill, where you can add oil to birds if you saw any birds out there that were in trouble. And that's pretty much it. The rest is just media and details. So I think that's it. We're just ready to submit it.
Yeah.
So then you go to submit your checklist, and you get this other screen here that lets you go through and update it. So you can go over your species list, make sure everything's in there. And then there's a few other options here on the side. So today, Dominic and I were birding together, so we can actually share a checklist so that it doesn't duplicate the data in eBird. We could each submit our own checklist, but there's also the option to share it. So it's just one entry, and they're both tagged as being the same entry, even though it counts separately. You can even add separate species that you saw yourself that the other person didn't see, but it still keeps the overall list together as one.
So then I can once it's shared. So those are people. So you just have to put in their email address. Jake, you're at the bottom there. I'll have your email address. And share a checklist.
And then share a checklist. And then some people get a little confused here. They want to tell other people what they saw. Like I know a lot of people wish sometimes to share a checklist with me just because they want me to see what they saw at a certain location. That's not the way to do it. This is really just if you were birding together. The best way to do that is actually at the bottom. You have an option to email yourself the checklist. Actually, it's right here now.
Yeah.
So you can do that. Email yourself the checklist, then send it to the other person or whoever else you want to share it with.
And you want to go down the high checklist.
Yeah.
So yesterday I got a question about not sensitive species, but someone was worried about hunters mining eBird data for rare geese, right, and hunting them. So that was a concern, and it is a concern. But there's also the bigger concern is sensitive species. There are a lot of cases where you don't want to broadcast the location of a certain bird. Particularly that happens with owls in highly populated areas. I have a personal experience with that. I was working in BC one summer, and I was in the Okanagan up near Anarchist Mountain, and there's a great owl nest that I knew about from Dick Cannings. He told me about it. So we went there, and I eBirded it, but I didn't. There's a problem in Vancouver of groups looking for owls and then harassing the living daylights of them to the extreme. So I didn't want that to go public. So there's a few ways to actually hide observations or not release the information right away. So the first one is you can actually hide your checklist from eBird output, right? What essentially this does is it keeps it in your personal records, but even the only place it is found is in the invalidated records in the review queue in the reviews, so it goes, so even I can't download the data. If I go download data request from Cornell, I don't get that record. And the only way it can be found would be going through all invalidated records for Nova Scotia, and I could find, it would say user hidden, and I could find that. So only the reviewers for that local area would be able to find that record. And so this is essentially if you don't want anyone else to have any idea of your records. But these records will never be used for any data, right? So it's not always the best option. Sometimes the best option, if you have one species you don't want people to know about, you can fudge your location a bit. So if it's the same habitat type, maybe use a general area. So not like, oh, on this road at 300 meters down this road on the right, this is where the great gray owl nest was. You can pick the patch and say there's a great gray owl here. And I will just report the number and I won't say about the nest. The other option is to wait. You put your whole checklist in minus that species, okay? And then later, a couple months later, add it on at the end, right? So so if people want to look at the data later, it's still there, but it's not immediate, right? And so we have a thing on eBird, people can get emails for birds they want to see. But those emails will take any record from the week, that week, so going back 7 days. So if you want to make sure that your record doesn't go into thousands of people's email boxes, wait at least a week, and then you can add it on. And the only way someone will be able to find it then is if they went to the Explorer data, searched that species, and found it on the map. So that's the best way. It would be wait a week or pick a general location that's slightly, not obvious to get over that. The other option is to hide this checklist, but
And you can always show it again later.
Yes,
That's the option. If you do hide it, you can come back at a later date to this particular checklist, which is this, and you can do show and eBird output. So you can come back at a later date and do that. One thing when you are hiding lists, like it does actually keep it from going on the needs alerts and the rare bird alerts, but it doesn't altogether hide your list. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. It will still show it in the top 100, like as your most recently observed species. If that was it, it'll show there. Even if you hide that species, it'll come up as your most recently observed bird. And also, you can actually, the location, if you go into like explore a region or explore a hotspot, or say explore a region like Nova Scotia, and you see the most recent reports, it'll actually show that you have a checklist from a specific location that's hidden. So it kind of gives it away that way.
Yeah.
So I would really recommend just, if you really want to hide it, to wait at least a week and make sure like all those recent visits have cleared out already. Like the 100 most recent visits are gone if the bird you really want.
How would you find a specific checklist several months down the road?
in your own personal, or say you're just exploring the data.
If I'd entered it and I wanted to hide a bird,
Right.
2 months later I want to put that
Right.
bird
So
in the
if
list.
I've hidden it, I always, 'cause it is a little, it doesn't show you like a list of your hidden checklists. I always keep a separate file, like just
Yeah.
a Word or Excel file, just with a list of my hidden checklists, so I know to go back. It's like I lived in Ottawa for a while, and I have a bunch of owl observations that are still hidden there because of just there is a really big problem there with photographers going and harassing these birds. So like some of these locations where I know the owls are still using, I still haven't unhidden those checklists yet.
So why don't I go and show that embedded
Yeah.
photo, and then so you go to so Terry, you're asking how to find your things. It's in manage my checklists.
Well, there's another one. I might want to embed a photo after waiting several months to process it.
Yeah, so you go
Yeah.
into your manage my checklists, and all your checklists that you've ever entered are listed here.
Okay.
Okay?
But
So
how can you jump, like I have 5,000 more of these, how can you jump to a specific?
Show all and scroll through. You can't.
Well, but there are ways to find them. Like if you go into your list, if you know the species you're looking for, that's the way to do it. If
Yeah.
you're looking for a specific list, like you say, when did I see that great gray owl? So if you just like go to
Right.
my eBird, and then you click on like either your life list or your year list or your county list for that area, then you get all your observations of that species from that county, and you can find that list that way. It's actually pretty fast. So it takes a few seconds really to find any list if you kind of know around when you saw it, where you saw it, and you can bring it up pretty easily.
Right. So here, I want to embed a photo. So I remember that I went to Mount McRae in Columbia, Shuswap County, BC, on July 31st. So I'm going to show you how to embed a checklist. So eBird just introduced the embedding feature not too long ago, and I'm not a big photographer, and I only took pictures on this trip in particular. And I don't have any Flickr account or third party account to upload my pictures. So that was the problem. So I never put in any photos at all into eBird. So let's see, is it going to give me? So I want to view this checklist. I'm going to put in. So here, so I have on this checklist. It was a 10-kilometer hike up the mountain. It took me 5 hours. It was a traveling count, and I saw 9 white-tailed ptarmigans. That was actually my lifer white-tailed ptarmigans. So I can go to, this is how you go back to a species. So if you want to add something in, you go to Edit Species List, right? And it gives you the option of doing this. So in this case, I want to do media, and I want to upload a photo. So I'm going to go to Select, and I threw this one on my desktop. White-tailed ptarmigan right here. Okay, so there it is. So when you are putting in photos, so it's very simple. Please rate your photo, okay? And the reason for that is now all photos, any audio recording, video recording, or photo you put into eBird goes to the Macaulay library, okay? And if you have an excellent photo or a terrible photo, they're both equally valuable in a sense to eBird, and they'll both go to the Macaulay library, but if people are searching for a certain species, they don't want to see the terrible quality photos. So this helps them, right? This is just going to filter out. So in this case, this is this is my best photo, so I'm going to put excellent quality, right?
What about the copyright issue there?
And so any photo, let's say I go birding with Jake, and I put a photo in, it's copyrighted to me, even if I share it with Jake. So whoever puts the photo into eBird, it's copyrighted to them, all right? So the original uploader of the photo. So if your friend doesn't care that you're putting in his photo or her photo or whatever, then go ahead, but it is copyrighted to the person that's putting in the checklist, all right?
So if they want to publish that photo, they have to contact you for permission.
Right, so you are actually copyrighted on that. So no, you are donating your photos. By embedding a photo, you are giving the Macaulay Library access to them. You retain the copyright, but you are giving them permission to use it in the Macaulay Library, right? So Cornell, you have given your photo to Cornell, yeah.
So is your idea of excellent quality a pretty picture or field marks?
A clearly identifiable species that is full frame and a clear photo, right?
Dominic, can you show people how to enlarge that photo?
So you can't right now, but I'm gonna go into it right now. So I'm gonna save this,
Okay.
right? And there it is now. So there it is in the checklist. So that adds a lot of a nice element to eBird checklists, especially because a lot of times, nowadays a lot of birders have awesome cameras and take awesome photos, and it's nice to have those photos associated with an actual real observation. So yeah, so I think that's all. Is that all we wanted to say about that? I think so. Yeah, okay, so we got that. So now...
So if you had a band on, you could put the comment in that you made a note of the band number and all that.
Yes, and obviously the more details you include, the better. Not only for other purposes, but your own. I mean, how many times do we see something cool and forget to write it down? I mean, it happens all the time.
Can I just mention that I don't know if Cardinal and the bird banding office talk together, but the first base should, before the band number, should be at the bird banding office.
Clearly, yeah.
To be
Yeah.
sure about that.
Yeah, so if you see it, obviously if you get a band number, full number, or a tag, a lot of times gulls will have numbers, bands. I mean, you want to report that to the banding office. CWS, you can call you can just go online where to report a band. So putting them in eBird is more for your own interest and to keep track of that, and to make sure that you then report it later, right? So if you're trying to remember what the band number was later, you have it in your records.